Hello and welcome to the Every Ancillary Sales Podcast. I'm your host, Michael Berg, joined as always by Viv Hudson. Viv, I'm going to do the intro today because we get a special guest, but this involves family at this point, so I got to make this intro. I hope you don't mind.
Okay, go for it, Mike.
So today we have on Joe Matejka, and Joe is actually my brother-in-law, but I thought Joe would be a great person to bring on to get maybe a different point of view and a different perspective from outside of the medical industry, from somebody that's been very successful in managing large sales teams. So Joe, want to thank you for getting on.
Sure, Mike. Happy to be here.
So Joe, can you tell everybody a little bit about yourself and your success that you've had in your career?
Sure, absolutely. Mike has found his way to San Diego, but his roots are actually in Cleveland, Ohio, and I happen to be in Cleveland. Cleveland guy, raised in Greater Cleveland area. My business career, I started a business back in 2005 doing fundraising with schools, and we do something that's unique and different, but it actually works. We do mattress fundraisers at schools all across America. And I started in Greater Cleveland in 2005 by myself. I really didn't have any intention of building a national business. I actually, quite frankly, just wanted to provide for my family. But about 2008, I realized there was an opportunity that could potentially go to other parts of the country. Approached a friend of mine who had moved to Buffalo from Cleveland and got him involved in the business. Subsequently, went to Cincinnati, then DC, and it expanded from there. Where it is today is we have 95 locations across the U.S., and we'll do this year about $80 million in sales. In the United States, there's a business journal called Furniture Today. They do a Furniture Today top 100 mattress and furniture retailers in America. And we would currently be ranked number 80 in the United States as far as bedding and furniture retailers. So that's my business. I actually should disclose that a little over almost 2 years ago, Mattress Firm, largest bedding and furniture retailer in America, approached me about acquiring me, and we put a deal together. And so we're in the process of going through that. The deal is done here in a couple of months. I get my final payment, but I will continue to run the business. They've asked me to stay on. So we've had great growth while with them for the last 2 years. We've had year over year 20% growth for the past 7 years straight. So that's what I do.
So, what's been your path of least resistance, I guess, in this game? I know that sales has a lot of resistance. So, what's been your path of least resistance in being successful in this area?
So, building my organization, there's everybody who comes in, we have a licensing agreement with our dealer base, and so they are all actually small business owners. There's no guarantees for them when they come in, but if they come in and they do the things that we ask them to do, we have a fairly strategic system for helping them build their individual organizations in their towns, and the success rate's very high. The path of least resistance is getting someone who's willing to come in and work extremely hard. One of the questions that I get a lot from people when you kind of have some measure of success is they'll ask you, what's the key to success or with our business? The truth is, and I believe this to be true with any business, the people who are going to succeed are the people who grind. The people who grind it out, and there's a lot of flashes in the pan who can have a short-term kind of a rise, but then they tend to fade away quickly because they lose their excitement for it. But in my view, and I think in most cases of other companies and organizations that I've seen, those who are willing to grind it out and stick to it, those are the people who succeed all the time. Especially in my organization, but I know that's true with colleagues I have all over the country that I talk about with other businesses.
Well, I think that's why I really wanted to get you on, Joe, because I know you've managed and you're currently managing nationwide sales forces. So you've seen all different levels of talent from sales reps, and I'm sure you've seen some people that possess a lot of talent, but it doesn't really translate into success. But then I know we've talked about other success stories that you've had people that have, maybe faced adversity time and time again and have persevered and pulled their way through it. So what are some of the key characteristics you see of these people who have been successful, and how do they keep motivating themselves even in the face of adversity?
Yeah, it's interesting when you have a national group, you get an opportunity to see some people mature through the business. And one thing that I think probably drives anybody who has a sales organization crazy is seeing people who have, great natural ability. And, they're able to, light up a room when they walk in. And I've had people in my organization, and I can name two or three right off the top of my head who came in and had all the ability in the world, but they just never, weren't willing to put in the effort that it took, or they never, saw it for being what it is. And, I can tell you several people in my organization, I'm thinking of one guy in Boston with us, took him 3 to 5 years. And quite frankly, if I were a betting man, I would have bet that he wasn't going to make it in our business. Today, he's a top 10 guy. And what happened is he's just a guy who, for whatever reason, he didn't believe in himself enough. And his internal mechanism for self-confidence wouldn't allow him to he kind of had a cap. And I finally sat down and talked with him. I'm like, Jack, what's holding you back? And he said, he goes, I don't know. He goes, he goes, there's something to, and I've learned this as well. A lot of people look at their fathers. If you're a guy, and say whatever dad made is kind of the cap. And you have to mentally free yourself to say, hey, look, that was great for dad, but I think I can do a little bit better. And with Jack, one of the things he wanted to have was a home in Florida for him and his wife. And when we talked about that, I remember thinking, we're a long way from that. Of course, I didn't share it with Jack, but I really felt that, if he could believe it himself and get there, he'd make it happen. I will tell you that in January, he bought that place, and he bought it in Siesta Key, Florida. And internally, as the guy who started our business, there have been very few things in the last decade that have made me well up with pride, like seeing a guy like that, achieve a lifetime goal. And look, I've got probably endless stories about people who muddled in the middle, and yet they stuck to it. They stayed after it, and ultimately turned the corner. We have one right now in Chattanooga, Tennessee, a guy who, boy, same kind of a thing. I didn't think he was going to make it, and here in the last 6 months, he told me at our conference in January, he said, just my year. And I hear that often. So I guess, sometimes to get it to really resonate with me, I remember him saying it, and I remember thinking, I hope it's true. But, this guy's lit it up, and he has had a phenomenal first half of the year, and his second half is more solid than his first half. So it's another, and again, he's been in my business 4 years, and most of your superstars historically kind of come out of the gates and stick to it. But this guy's been a slow growth guy, but he's getting there, and it's great to see. I don't know if that answers your question or.
Yeah, it's kind of that story, that person that quits and they're like just about 3 inches away from hitting gold. And that's often the case, is people give up a little bit too early. But if you just stay the course that little bit longer, then you make gold. So it's perseverance is a big factor, obviously, in people's success. So
another thing that I see oftentimes with people is that who they listen to for career advice are very well-meaning family and friends, and they mean well, but most people I've found are used to a corporate structure where there is a guarantee. It's a guaranteed salary, and that makes people feel safer. And so for a lot of family members and friends, again, they mean well, but they're risk averse, and they're not willing to maybe take a risk, and they want the best for you, but they like safety and they like comfort. And I think by knowing a little bit about your structure over there, I know you have a lot of independent people. And you have to kind of understand that people who talk with you about that mean well. They do want the best for you. But I will also tell you that folks like that also like everybody kind of being at the same level, because that gives them a level of comfort. So when everybody's kind of, you're close to your buddies income-wise and things like that, that makes everybody feel comfortable. And anybody who wants to break free from that is sometimes ostracized by family and friends. And I think you have to have enough intestinal fortitude to say, you know what, I'm not going to listen to that. I believe in myself. I believe in what I'm doing. I'm going to continue to push. You know, I have a daughter who's a sophomore now in college, and my business really turned the corner probably about 5 or 6 years ago. And to give you a frame of reference, I'm actually 54 years old. And, when I was building this business, it was definitely not I was putting everything I had back into the business. And so about 2 years ago, I was having lunch with my daughter. And she said something that as a parent, I think it really hits home. She goes, Dad, remember when I was a kid and we'd go out to lunch like this and we'd run into buddies of yours from high school, and they would ask you what you were doing, and you would tell them. And, my business is a little, I guess, is the out of the box type of a saying goes. My business is like that. And she goes, remember when they used to laugh at you? I go, yeah, I remember. She goes, I do too. She goes, the cool thing? No one laughs anymore. And, it was great, had I listened to outside forces, I might have, maybe pulled up stakes and taken a job where, maybe there were more guarantees. But look, I decided that's not me, and I'm going to push through it. And, I've been very fortunate, but that's what I think. I think too many people quit too soon when they're very, very close to hitting it.
Yes, absolutely. And I know that I've had that experience in my life where I just had to keep telling myself, look, I've got the formula right. It's just going to take time. So you just have to believe in yourself. And as you say, there's plenty of naysayers that'll tell you that there's a different way to find security. And it's the more risk you take, I guess, the bigger the returns. It's a bit like playing on the stock market. I'd say playing, but I shouldn't say playing, but investing on the stock market. That the gains can be really good, but they can also be safer with the blue chip stocks. So, yeah. But anyway, I want to say thanks to you, Joe, for getting on the podcast today. It was great having you and just hearing a different perspective from a different industry. And if you haven't already registered with Every Ancillary, go to everyancillary.com and make sure that you register, and it will give you a whole plethora of different ancillaries that you can add to your bag to be able to make you successful in serving your physicians. Thanks, Joe.
Thanks so much, Vivian. I appreciate it. Mike, good talking to you. Have a great day.
Likewise. Thanks, Joe.
Sure. Bye-bye.